It's the first day of Sanguinala, with the Festival of Lights getting underway all across Innsmouth Hive. Hive kids have saved up those credits all year round to make those tiny handmade float lanterns that we like seeing all over the Hab. Some of the more festive Have blocks have adorned their hallways in those red, white, and green lights, which are there to remind us all of the great angel himself, Sanguinius. This is 665.66 UHMA Chemrat Radio. Tonight, we are perched on the roof of the Krampus Industrial Textile Manufactorum, at least until Krampus hears us and kicks us out. I am your fanatically festive phantom of Sanguinila's past, Goblin King, and today I am joined by my special guest, Ickbard. Ickbard, tell me, what exactly have you been hoarding deep in the Underhive in preparation for Sanguinala Eve?
Oh, I got this megaphone because you don't want to be detected by Krampus. Good morning, Underhive!
I'm sure that won't mess up production at all. Somebody just sewed their hand to like a guardsman's flak. Whoa, what the fuck?
I think I just heard a car crash outside. No.
So yeah, guys, it is the Christmas season here at the studio, both in the Midwest and in California. And we wanted to bring you guys some special content over the next couple of weeks before we jump head first back into lore, starting with our series on the Astra Militarum. Ickbard, you'll know that we're probably jumping into Gene Stealer cults after.
I could dig it.
Which will actually be a pretty good link right there. You get that one to the other flow, which will work really well. Those of you that are involved in our community, including Ickbard here over on Discord, know we are deep into our second painting contest.
Vote for me.
Sanguinala painting. Vote for me. Vote.
A vote for me is a vote for the Underhive Auxilia. Pay your fucking taxes.
Wait a minute. And you guys wonder why I voted for a Splatterhawk. I'm just saying, y'all pimp your shit too much. No, I'm kidding. It's been really cool seeing all the paint jobs. Those of you who are listening and may not be familiar with our painting contest, we do a painting contest about once a quarter. We always try to link it back to something festive in the Warhammer universe. Our last one was the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension, which is kind of like a Thanksgiving and an in-universe Thanksgiving. This one we're doing Sanguinala, which is a kind of an in-universe Christmas. We'll put in a pin in that. We'll be right back. We give away a trophy. Hired a digital artist, a very good digital artist, my little sister, who made us the Red Squig trophy. We 3D printed out. Marky paints it up for you guys. And then that's what these guys are competing for. As we grow and change, maybe we'll start being able to do some rewards like some paintbrushes or something in the future. We're kind of feeling out how we're going to do the painting contest stuff now and how it's going to grow. We're having a lot of fun with it. You guys are having a lot of fun with it too, yeah?
I'm having a lot of fun. This is probably my entry, Sammy the Swarmlord, as referenced in my previous appearance. He has probably been my best model to date. I learned how to glaze with him and do all the highlights and shit like that.
Techniques.
Yeah. It's been nothing but up from there.
Yeah. So our second painting contest is named after Sanguinius, the Sanguinala Holiday. So the Sanguinala Holiday is an imperial religious holiday and perhaps the most revered day on the imperial calendar. The holiday commemorates the sacrifice of the Primarch Sanguinius, also known as the Great Angel or the Brightest One. Sanguinius was the Primarch of the Blood Angel Space Marine Legion. He was gifted with the ability of foresight. He knew that if he did the actions he needed to do in order to help save the Imperium, he was going to die. He already knew, so he willingly sacrificed himself to meet Horus head on before the Emperor fought Horus during the end stages of the Battle of Terra on Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. And he and Horus clashed. Horus killed Sanguinius, which basically opened up this rift both in Horus's attention, Horus's psyche, and Horus's armor. And the reason that all happened was that Sanguinius was actually Horus's best friend before Horus fell. And Sanguinius was the one Primarch that Horus wanted to come to his side the entire time. So in this sacrifice and in this combat, Sanguinius essentially allowed the chink in the armor, so to speak, that gave the Emperor the ability, at least in Imperial legend, that gave the Emperor the ability to slay and stop Horus for good, basically erase his soul from existence. And it's that sacrifice that Sanguinala honors in universe. Out of universe, in the Warhammer 40k community, we connect Sanguinala with Christmas for a couple of different reasons. One of them being GW has a tendency to release Sanguinala stuff around this time of year, kind of on purpose. But one of the other reasons is both Sanguinius and Sanguinala have a lot of connections and origins within the Roman feast of Saturnilla, which is actually also something that the Catholic Church, or the modern conception of Christmas, I guess, more so than the Catholic Church, kind of takes its roots from. There's a couple of different little legacies and strings there. In universe, as far as the creative writing and the lore side of it, Sanguinala is the day that kids might get a gift during the festival.
Double up on them starch rations, those corpse starch rations.
Right. Yeah, you can do a little bit of a feast by having a couple of extra rations in Sanguinius's honor. There's all sorts of just little tidbits there. And of course, if you're looking to write lore or write a short story during this season, borrow from a lot of those Catholic and those Gothic storytelling themes and kind of craft those trappings into something that makes sense in the 40K setting. I alluded to it in the intro. You could take the Christmas Carol and you could kind of like pace it out. You could do a Christmas Carol, but in the Underhive.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Ghost of Primarch's past, Primarch's yet to be.
That's right.
Or Primarch yet to come, which would be any of them really. Be Angron. You just hear Angron in the background. You're just like, no, save me.
You're visited by 3 Primarchs and the last one is Angron, and you're like, I don't know if this is saved, man. One of the things that we talked about, we very, very, very briefly touched on the last time you were on the show, like super briefly, like there was a one throwaway line. We talked about the idea of perpetuals, and I have been reading through the Battle of Terra, the Siege of Terra books, and I am on the 3rd or 4th one right now. And there was this whole conversation between John Grammaticus. That his name?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
You could say John Redcorn. I'm like, shit, he's in King of the Hill and 40K? Fuck yeah.
All the time. But basically, this guy was made a perpetual by the Eldar, and then like he keeps coming back to like kind of mess with things. This is totally up your alley, man. This is all Alfarius. We are Alfarius stuff.
Fair enough.
It's interesting. You had mentioned one of the Primarchs being a perpetual. I can't remember.
Vulcan is the only Primarch that is perpetual. Everyone else has plot armor or dead.
Thinks there are 2 perpetuals.
No. People could consider Jekatai Khan a perpetual, but no. They're sort of soft rebooting how alien Primarchs are compared to others. Because in one of the more recent books, there was a fight where I'm not going to say against who or where, but basically Jekatai Khan gets fucking bodied. He is canonically killed. His apothecaries come to go rescue him. They go, oh shit, he's fucking bodied, lol lamau. Sad emoji. Slap it on his face with a sticker. But then they go, he's dead, but there's vitals. But he's actually dead, but there's vitals. What the fuck? So they work on the vitals and they kind of reconstitute him back to life, is the very shorthand. So there is Primarch constitution to bring them back from these, because they are actual... They're pumping up in Horus Heresy that these are actual demigods, not just super soldiers.
They're almost immortal anyway. It takes a lot to kill them.
Yes.
Essentially.
It usually takes another Primarch. Usually.
Right.
So when they had that happen, it kind of set up this barrier for Primarchs. Perpetuals are kind of like here, mainly for coming back. Then you have Vulcan, who is already a Primarch. See, for those listening to the podcast, I'm moving my hands to make a barrier to suggest.
Going up and
up. Yes. So Vulcan is a Primarch and a Perpetual simultaneously. So it does take a lot.
Primarch plus.
Exactly.
And Vulcan was destroyed by being like thrown into an orc super weapon.
He was killed twice.
And that didn't even kill him.
No, it did. He got thrown into his sun. It also
didn't. That's right. He got thrown into his sun. Vulcan threw the beast into an orc super weapon, and it didn't kill the beast.
Because the beast was. That's what it was. Yeah, the beast was like a super what was the old school name for orcs? Orokai? And that's Lord of the Rings. It's Uruk. Hork.
Yeah. Kro.
Yeah.
RK.
I was to say, which fantasy orc name was it again? There's only like 500. But Corks. It's like he was basically a Cork that was leading like a mega wall, and that killed Vulcan, but didn't kill the Cork. You guys were talking about that during a story time Q&A.
One of the interesting things with running a podcast and kind of being able to go back and listen to yourself earlier is I think we've learned and we've adapted a lot. And one of the things that we messed up early on was we tried to cover all of 40K history in like 3 episodes, which was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because some of those episodes, it sounds like I'm singing an Animaniacs song because I'm just trying to get through all this stuff. But when we did the orc episode, we kind of made a similar blunder because we had decided, okay, the orc episode is only going to be 2 episodes and we probably should have done a 3rd one. So we're actually going to go back and touch on orc history because we left it out. I feel like the Eldari, and I'd be interested to know your opinion, but I feel like the Eldari is the first one that we like really kind of hit stride. We introduced history, then we introduced culture, then we introduced how they game. And I think that kind of flowed a lot better as a full series. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
So let's start off with my perspective on Eldar and basically the cookie cutter shape that they fit, which is elves in general.
Yes, space elves. Yeah.
I am a person who really loves to see very proud, very self-assured kind of entities get kind of get shit on. Like I love seeing that humbleness, that humility that happens to people. And when you have an archetype that is that I can't help that I'm functionally immortal and just better than you in every way, when you have that for, as the fill-in for when you make elves of whatever flavor, I'm going to have a bit of a distance. So to have,
as far as the race goes,
and so to have that standoffishness and go, I could listen to 6 hours of this from these guys, no problem. It does stand to it. So there's your cookie, there's your pat in the back.
Thank you. I feel like we're, obviously we're learning and evolving, and every time we talk to a new guest and every time we have new personalities come in and all that, we're learning a little bit more about who our culture and who our community is on one hand, and on the other hand, we're learning how to produce a better show. And hopefully that's forever. Hopefully we just get a little bit better each time.
Exactly.
But yeah, to hit on what you were saying with the perpetuals, I actually think, because there's so much being worked on and changed and introduced and flushed out with the Horus Heresy, I think one of the things that we're supposed to take away, and this is my 40K conspiracy theory right now, is that the Men of Gold are the perpetuals.
Men of Gold.
So the Men of Gold made the Men of Stone. The Men of Stone settled the galaxy. The Men of Stone made the Men of Iron. The Men of Iron rebelled against and caused all the problem. I think the perpetuals are the Men of Gold. And I think the Men of Stone are the first like Mechanicus things that they made, the first Skitarii-esque things they made, because you have to be able to travel long distances and deal with all this shit for interstellar travel.
Okay.
So I think the Men of Stone are supposed to be like cybernetic beings, and which we see currently in Warhammer 40K. Space Marines being an example, the Skitarii being an example.
Rogue Trader, you had a lot of androids and battle bots.
Right. And then the Men of Iron are AI.
Yeah.
And then that's where the soup got spilled. But I think that idea, the perpetual, so it's interesting to see how you kind of laid it out. And I think you're right. I think as you ratchet up, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you pointed out, and this was a conversation on the Discord. I don't remember if you were involved. You were probably involved because you guys like to give me crap about Abaddon. Somebody had mentioned that Abaddon wasn't all that badass. And I was like, you're not getting the whole picture. Abaddon is one of the few Space Marines that Primarchs were scared of when he was just a Space Marine. And that's before he fucking consolidated power for 10,000 years. The idea that Abaddon can't just walk up and body Gilliman, and the fact that people don't think that's an actual thing, I'm like, of course he can. Abaddon scared Perturabo and Gilliman when Abaddon was just a normal Terminator.
Yeah,
they were like, oh, this guy's good. This guy could be a problem.
It's the same problem because I play Thousand Suns. I played him a lot more recently since the last time we talked because the codex dropped and it was awesome. That was a great 2 weeks.
Power boost.
They were comparable for 9th edition play now, and it was awesome. Looking at what they write in the codexes compared to the way that they were shown through the scope in previous editions, Chaos was perpetually the 80s cartoon, like serial cartoon villain guy, where they have to lose by the end. Dick Dastardly loses the race. The guy with the twirly mustache, gets tied to the railroad tracks instead of the damsel in distress. And then they changed that with 8th edition. So it's basically you had 20 plus years of shit thrown at you for 5 years of fuck you, suck my dick kind of responses.
Yeah. When they advanced the story, they just had chaos fucking just come out of nowhere.
And mollywop the shit out of people.
Yeah. And people are pissed about it. They're like, I don't understand. And it's like, well, exactly what you pointed out. You had to have the opposition force, and chaos has always been the opposition force. And now that they're kind of trying to balance the game as none of the factions are the good guys, none of the factions are the bad guys, I think we're seeing a lot more of that. Like, no, it's just wrecked. The entire universe is wrecked. The Necron are on their back foot. The Eldar are on their back foot.
The Tyranids are potentially running away from something else.
Right. And what is that? And how bad is that going to be? And that's an interesting story, Colonel. I'm really interested to see how they kind of maximize and change the lore moving forward. It's an interesting time to be a Warhammer player. And we're probably in another 2 or 3 editions of status quo realistically, but I would imagine by, whatever 3 editions or 2 editions from now, 2 releases from now, we'll probably get something massive again.
I slightly disagree, mainly because we had 8th edition, the big pivot, big fucking shift. Then 9th, we had the beginning of the Indomitus Crusade, and we have each codex is now talking about their own expanse in the world. We still have Tyranids versus Blood Angels going on Ball. We have now a Pariah Nexus to worry about as the Silent King moves in. Everyone's been talking about, and when I say everyone, I mean people I talk to, so that's a very small pool, but everyone's been talking about how Fulgrim and the Emperor's Champions, or Emperor's Children, are moving towards the fucking Pariah Nexus. Like how his...
Interesting.
And we're talking about how Emperor's Children and World Eaters are probably getting codexes. So
which will be awesome.
They're moving forward. It's incremental, mainly because of the delayed stratified codex releases for whichever reason, which we don't have to get into now, because that's a podcast in itself. But
it's me shouting about shipping industry stuff and how GW is using it as an excuse. Anyway,
I just want you, like in that Always Sunny in Philadelphia, your face superimposed. Who is Pepe Sylvia? Who is Pepe Sylvia?
Literally me. Every time shipping and GW gets brought up, I'm like, it's not. It's bad, but it's not nearly as bad. They're using it as anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. Yes, exactly. So it's like they're moving forward. I wouldn't say we have a status quo now. I think at the end of 9th edition, we would be able to see a bit clearer where we started from the beginning of 9th to end of 9th, kind of how 8th edition was one big shakeup. Then at the end, we had the Pariah Nexus, or not Pariah Nexus, sorry, Psychic Awakening, where all of a sudden, wait, more Psychers are coming. What the fuck does that mean to everyone else? Stuff like that. And that kind of teed it up for 9th edition. If we get to the end of 9th, and all of a sudden we have new supplementals set up for 10th, which I think they're going to be doing, I think we could say, realistically, they are moving forward. It's just there's so much lore baked in with the mechanics, and so often someone is going to buy a $60 codex for the last 10 pages.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've even seen a shift towards that with the e-releases and the apps and stuff like that. If you're only interested in the last 10 pages, you can invest in the app instead, and you can get that information at a cheaper and different rate.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I don't know if it's because of the influx of new players, and this will allow us to segue really quickly into talking about how you got involved, but I don't know if it's something to do with the influx of new players. I don't know if it's something to do with the maturity of gaming in general, the maturity of wargaming, the maturity of Warhammer. But it's very interesting right now that there's not necessarily 2 different camps, but there's definitely 2 different like strata layers in the layered soup of 40K. There's lore and creative writing and kind of old hammer guys. And, we've got Chalk, as you had mentioned earlier. Chalk doesn't even really play. He just likes collecting and painting and working on the lore. And you got guys like me who are pretty much into this is the kit bash portion of my hobby. I'm going to play, but I'm going to spend more time building what I want and kind of tweaking what I want, writing my own codexes and playing around with stuff like that. And then you've got newer guys who are in it, who are newer people who are in the hobby, who are just meta chasing. They want to see it as a competitive game. And I don't know if it's a level of maturity that exists in the game. I don't know if it's a normal thing that happens. I don't know if it's new players being involved, or if it's just kind of, to a certain extent, not back in the day, but, 10, 20 years ago, towards the end of the 90s, when there was no such thing as esports yet, and there was a lot of deathmatch stuff that happened. Every game had a deathmatch mode, and the deathmatch mode was the competitive.
Yeah,
and that's all you did. But
a lot of people, and that was basically it.
Yeah, Yeah,
That was more 2000s though, wasn't it? Early 2000s.
I think 98 was the first year I placed. 2000 was the highest I ever got.
Okay.
Yeah, just around that, like the end of the 90s, essentially.
Gotcha.
But that evolved into, Counter-Strike and team play, and that evolved all the way up to what we've got now, which is like Overwatch League.
Overwatch League is dead, by the way. I just want to let you know. It is dying so hard. Not to kill your flow.
Yeah.
Valorant.
Well,
Valorant.
Esports. Thank you. Yeah, esports like Valorant, the team esports that exist, the team leagued esports that exist.
Yeah.
And I know it goes deeper. I know people still play some of the card games, and I know that there's still people who play Fortnite. I know there's still people who play PUBG. There's a lot of competitiveness that exists in the gaming sphere.
There's competitive Tetris.
There is competitive Tetris.
It looks fun.
There's competitive speed runs of I can't remember the name of the level in Sonic. But we used to run one at every gaming convention I did. There was a competitive speed run of the universe level, the star level.
Listen, man, I owned a 64 and a Genesis, but I never got to really play any of the cool Sonic games. Okay,
it's this like notoriously difficult to beat Sonic level that's all in space, and I can't remember the name of it.
Gotcha.
But, essentially, there's been this sportsman-like competitiveness that has come into gaming in general, and I wonder if that's part of it. Now, I'm supposing, because obviously I engage at a slightly different level with the hobby than other people do. And to be completely fair, now that I'm in a different environment, or now that I'm in a new environment and I'm getting to know the new scene, all of the games I'm playing are competitive.
Yeah.
Because I haven't hit that narrative stride here. And I think a lot of it is because that narrative stride is there isn't a lot of people who are willing to sit down and say, here's the story, let's play in my local environment. But your experience with Warhammer is newer, correct? You've only been in the hobby for like 18, 19 months?
Yeah, give or take.
So how did you come into it? How do you see it?
Okay. How much time do we have? Because I know how to spin a yarn longer than it should be. So the way I started was probably one of the worst ways. I played a lot of 3.5 with some friends. Basically, their viewpoint was a lot of new things that were released kind of sucked. When I worked private security, they would basically follow me through phone calls as I did my job, and we just bitch about the new Star Wars movies, because it was right as The Last Jedi was dropping, and we were just like, oh my god, and it was that big wave of just Star Wars hate, and it kind of, that sentiment of newer things kind of suck. I like the things I liked when I was younger stuck in, so that's why we played D&D 3.5 instead of 5e, and when they talked about 40k, they say, don't play 8th edition, let me teach you 7th edition, you'll love pie plates, right? And stuff like that. So a lot of it.
Let me teach you 4th. Listen, let me teach you 4th. No, I'm kidding.
Shit, man. If I can play squats, sure. They were telling me all the lore to hate, basically, as their way to vent. It's like not to paint a bad character of my friends, even though I will. They it's just like us bullshitting and venting on it. But like they mainly told me about the stupid Matt Ward stuff that was going on at the time. So it's like a lot of that Matt Ward stuff, and that's also transferred to why I don't like Grey Knights to a degree, because it's Matt Ward stuff. And so I went, the lore is stupid, but I'm painting up these miniatures, these D&D miniatures, and damn, that's fun. I'm almost wishing I had another 10 to just kind of paint there, and I feel like that'd be good. But I feel like that's wargaming, and wargaming is expensive. Okay, I can budget it out, I'll get an army, I'll paint it. If I like it, cool, I'll play it. If not, I'll sell it, or I'll give it as gifts or some shit like that. But the lore is stupid. I hate the lore. Damn you, Games Workshop, and your lore. It is bad. Therefore, you are stupid. So I bought Custodes off eBay.
Okay.
Bought a bunch of.
I was going to ask, what was your first army?
Very first army was Custodes. Bought them on eBay because I'm like, okay, if I want to buy it cheap, eBay's there. I had like a $200 budget, and like, boom, Custodes army. Click. Day after, Gavin Newsom has recorded that we are now going to be going into shelter in place for the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, you had mentioned that in the previous episode we had you on. Like you bought stuff right before the pandemic started. So I went, okay, I have the free time, I guess, to just paint this stuff. I'm going to stay home. Not like I really go out anyways. My job is essential. I'll still kind of live my life. Grateful for that in the long run. And so I have all this free time because now I really can't go out and do anything. I begin painting.
I build it. I go, hey, this is pretty cool. I like that. I'm gonna build Space Marines. There's a couple of Space Marine stuff I liked. I played on Tabletop Simulator, tested all out just on the end of 8th edition before 9th was announced, figured out what I liked. I talked to my friends to go, no, listen, I know Warhammer is a grim, dark, or as we say, grim derp universe, where it's just grim derp, those playing the home game, where things are unnecessarily dark or edgy to serve for the form rather than for the narrative of the story, like corpse starch rations, where there's hundreds of agri-worlds to give fresh food to everyone around them. Stuff like that, as a quick abridge. So we have our grim derp universe, but who are like, I know there's no good guys, but who are like the least asshole-ish? Oh,
who are the least bad?
Like I really love when we played that it's like Dark Heresy game. You know, you were playing that priest guy and you had that flamethrower and you didn't have to hit and you killed the Khorne Berserker in Terminator armor. That was awesome. I want to field an army like that. Oh, well, you'll love salamanders. They really love flamers. Oh, cool. Are they assholes? No, they're actually really cool to humans.
Yeah, they're actually one of the few chapters that is nice to you. And they care about their background. Like
they get to visit their families. They're all master smiths. And I'm like, I love blacksmithing as like if I could have like a quick $5,000 to drop on a hobby. I say playing Warhammer. And so I'm like,
that wasn't a quick $5,000.
That wasn't a quick $5,000. That was a death by 1,000 pennies. No, but
death by 1,000 pennies. I love it.
and so I'm no Yogi Berra, but I'll get there with age. But and so that's for all the non-millennials out there who know what I'm talking about. So Google them, you fuckers. Anywho, no, but so I go. I was reading through. I downloaded like the PDFs for like Space Marines. I read it. Go Imperial Fist, exploding sixes on bolters. That sounds really cool. What is the lore about these Imperial Fist guys? Oh, Imperial Fists aren't really assholes. They're just like stern dads that expect a lot out of you. Okay.
Yeah.
Dorn's actually really cool. Horus Heresy? What's that? Oh, shit. And then I was like, okay, I want to do Imperial Fists.
You came at it from the perspective that the lore is dumb.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have a lot of experience with the lore?
It's because I didn't have a lot of experience with the well-written lore. I had nothing but like shorthand, third-party sources of Matt Ward.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of irritates me as an older player, not as a person, as an experienced player, and you at this point are in.
What did you say?
Right. I would say you're kind of an experienced player at this point too. You've been doing it for close to 2-3 years at this point. So
almost 2 years, and my game store was able to open to have because they had a separate back room and you had a big table between you. Right. We were able to play without violating the stuff. So I like to say me and like 3 others in the Bay Area, aside from like Tabletop Tactics who were playtesting at the time, were probably playing some of the most 9th edition matches at that point, which was just mind-boggling. Cool, yeah, it's mind-boggling to say that post like 90s where you can't really have that niche where you can claim that kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to get with garage leagues and game stores it seems like every 10 feet sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is you're probably starting to notice it now. There is a lot of lore that is introduced and talked about a lot that is just memes. It is not actually based in any lore.
Yeah.
Somebody decided to make fun of, Creed or Abaddon or something.
And it stuck.
And it stuck. And it became lore, even though it's not actually connected to those characters and how those characters function.
To quote, Warhammer players sure love beating a dead horse for a meme.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fair.
They really do.
Like how many times, like, because it's an inside joke, basically, to you and that person. That is the acknowledgement. Yes, I'm in tune with you. Cadius stance. Right. Hey, Abaddon's arms. Like, we all know that these are things we can say because we know we can get a reaction. That's like, it's almost like a close bonding thing. But because that is half the things being said, it's like World War. Wow, it's like war historians. I pulled a U for a second. It's like war historians.
I don't know how to words right now. It's fine.
Okay, so I got the speaking in tongues aside. But yeah, war historians. Yeah. Oh, Battle of 1812. It's amazing. Waterloo. Sure, talk about that. Oh shit, it's the World War II fans. Run!
Yeah. There's a they don't listen to the podcast. They're in the podcast, but they're
and fuck you too.
Every once in a while, like I'll find myself 3 to 8 minutes into a lecture with Kevin where I'm like, man, you know a lot about this specific type of ammunition that was used in this one airplane only in this one battle of World War II. I'm like, that's cool, man. I don't know what you're talking about anymore.
Oh, dude,
but it's great.
I gotta invite you into a server I'm in. It's a history server run by a bunch of Europeans.
Okay.
And they it's like that with Kevin and the ammunition and all that shit, but it's like all of medieval European history, because for them that's just history.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced that, being somebody who lifesteal fights and has lifesteal fought for a while. I've experienced that even on our server where, you know, people will bring up certain types of weapons. I had a whole conversation about it the other day where people were like, oh yeah, morning stars and flails are super cool. And I'm like, yeah, and they weren't actually used in combat. Like they were probably used in combat.
For like,
because it's a
tournaments
terror
and fairs.
weapon.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
that they're so dangerous. You wouldn't actually use it like in frontline combat because you'd fucking kill the guys on each side of you.
There's a video I need to send you about from a historian who talked about like how real are flails? Were flails real? Were they just something that someone kind of imagined, and art and life imitates art
right now?
And I love it because like I love flails. I love using them in video games because they're just neaty. They're fun.
They look cool as shit.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's from a terror weapon, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I saw a 6 to 8 feet tall space marine with a storm shield and a power flail where it's like cracking lightning like goddamn Storm from the X-Men,
yeeting the fuck out the other way. dude,
send the Chimera forward. I'm gonna go that way. No, Mr. Commissar, I'm getting you more ammunition.
I wore my brown pants today.
I wore my brown pants and my running shoes.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's funny how that sort of stuff. You've got a really good point. Any community kind of has a tendency to do that sort of stuff, and it can be daunting to an outsider. I'm pretty bad. I play Pathfinder, and I actually left Pathfinder to do Savage Worlds, which I think is a much better system. But I didn't leave off that 3.5 roller coaster either. And a lot of it is because 4.0 sucked. 4.0, no matter what you want to say, 4.0 was 100% designed to appeal to people who played World of Warcraft. And I didn't like World of Warcraft, so I didn't like 4.0. And I'm not saying the system is bad, and I'm not saying that people who played it were dumb, and I'm not really trying to trash talk on people who still play it at all. I'm just saying... Got you. I didn't like 4.0.
I'm doing the teacher. I'm in queue to respond to that.
Yeah. Right, go ahead.
So when I learned how to
bitch about 4.0,
when I learned how to play D&D, I was simultaneously learning 4th edition and AD&D with the people who taught my mom in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can say after looking into it, because I've done several college papers on this shit. 4th edition, and I'm getting married somehow, so just have to put that. Just like you see this ring, go to Patreon so I can prove it. I swear, spend money to know I'm loved. So I learned with 4th edition, it was made as a drastic counter reaction to 3.5 and a disparity between your martial versus your caster classes pre Book of Nine Swords, because you had what they called a ivory tower theory, where you had to build up 4 to 5 feats to become comparable into combat, compared to a caster who was already taking feats that they're encouraged for them to get anyways to become better, such as attacking after moving and stuff like that, that'd be baked into 5th edition afterwards. So that's what mainly happened with the 4th edition. Not to actually you, but to actually you.
Well, so I actually I was close enough to still working for Wizards at the time. Maybe I did.
Oh fuck, am I going to get actually?
No, I'm just going to give you, because there's always a mechanics reason, and then there's always a marketing reason.
Gotcha.
To any of this,
the left hand and the right hand.
There's always two reasons why this happened. And one of the reasons that they changed it and structured it, one of the reasons that a lot of people had that visceral reaction to it, like, oh, I feel like I'm playing an MMO, is because that's how they marketed and packaged it.
Oh, okay.
Down to, they had those cards that you could print out.
Yes.
And you could just basically,
I bought those packs and I would throw them down and shit like that.
Right.
And I used that to get Dungeons & Dragons Online for free loot.
There you go. I actually don't mind 5th edition. I think 5th edition has some really good qualities to it. I did make the big dive into Savage Worlds, and this is an entire podcast on its own. The links between role-playing and 40K is definitely a podcast topic.
Oh, dude, they have how many fucking role-playing games?
And they're all bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're not all bad. They're all very rules. They're all very rules heavy. And the rules, if you write a system where you have to spend as much time looking up an archaic, obscure rule as you do playing the game, you've failed. And that's the big part of Savage Worlds, big part of attraction to Savage Worlds for me, is that Savage Worlds was designed by a bunch of guys who liked dime store pulp novels. Like so because of that, everything is just based on how do you resolve this rule as quickly as possible. One of the things that I really love about the game, and then I'll get off and we'll get back onto the other armies you play and how your game evolved and how your hobby evolved.
That's right. You wanted to know my perspective as a new player. 20 minutes
Tangent
later.
City.
Rabbit
Tangent
holes
train
and rabbit
to
trails.
Yeah. But so a lot of times in movies, like the villain monologue. So a lot of times in role-playing games as DMs, as being a DM, and I'm sure as a player and as a DM,
I've magic mouthed a lot of
with
dungeons.
our villains. Yeah. And in Savage Worlds, because it's based originally on that kind of dime store novel and the setting called Deadlands specifically, which was a D20 game, by the way, at one point, there's exploding dice. So
oh shit,
the villain is monologuing and the hero pulls out his 6-shooter and shoots, and he rolls a 6 and then he rolls another 6. And then all of a sudden now he's doing like 80 damage.
Yep.
The villain's dead. Doesn't get to finish his monologue, just dead. Move on with the story. And that's the way it's designed. It's designed so that the players' interactions are capable of redirecting the story, as where D&D, even though they're trying to change it, D&D at the end of the day was designed so that the DM could force people to play their story. And there's a big, and I'm talking about like 1st edition. I'm not talking about.
I played AD&D, motherfucker.
So, yeah. So but like D&D, we talk about railroading a lot, like railroading the story, because no, you have to go, like if you look at a module, you have to go through these steps to finish.
I was apprehensive for something, but I remembered, they said if you want to DM, you need to build 6 dungeons and make your players do the 6 dungeons. Then you run them through Homelet and you have these different, because it's all a shared world. Yeah. That's right.
And like, you don't have to do that. And a lot of people that are experienced and a lot of people are not experienced, a lot of people who have a lot of fun with the game don't do that. But, when the intention of the rules are the DM is always right on one side, and then the intention of the rules on the other side are do everything you can to make your players have a good time. There's a difference between those two core concepts.
Yeah.
So Custodes. And then Custodes.
Yes.
Whatever. Custodes.
It's not a starts, but you don't even say that right. So
it's fucking made up words anyway. I can't remember, but back in the day, there was a huge debate. And like, I legitimately remember this in high school there was 2 different. So there's the Aes Sedai from Wheel of Time.
Okay.
There's 2 ways to say it. There's the Aes Sedai, which is what most people say. And then there's like the Essie Desi or something. And legitimately like people fucking shouting at each other. And I just remember being somebody who is starting to get into like fantasy shit, being like, why the fuck are you guys yelling at each other about a fake word? And then with, I don't remember, dude. I can't even remember.
Post. Hey, Sal, in usage. Hey, Sally and I are gonna do the Essie Desi under the bleachers tonight.
And then the other one was Dune, because there's the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
And I remember people being like, no, it's the Beanie GCC or whatever. And again, it was like, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? And I get it. It's Astartes.
Yeah.
And it's spelled Astartes. The problem is there is so much shit in science fiction that's Astrady or Astrady similar that it's in my head
baked
already.
In.
It's easier to go towards, as the guys make fun of me, Atreides.
Yeah.
The Dune house, than it is to say Astartes, because like, oh, I'm a startizing a new army.
Yeah.
A start. Anyway, so you had custodes.
Yeah.
By the way, I hear them called custode. Custodes, custodies, and yeah, I've heard 4 different pronunciations. Gotcha. But so you started with custodi.
Yeah, I did the
custodes.
Yeah,
and then you moved to not salamanders. You had another Space Marine army in there.
I did Imperial Fists, but I did them as a successor. I did the Celestial Lions.
Okay,
yeah,
and that's the army that you painted up and sold, right?
No. That was my that was the Dark Angels. I bought an old, like almost like it was like Mark IV armor, pewter cast.
Almost everything was pewter.
Yeah.
So like 3rd, 4th edition.
Yeah, old school, like some Dark Angels, awesome. And I painted up another 1K of that, and then I ended up selling it to my friend, who then spanked me with it a month later.
That's always the worst.
Oh no,
I sold you my old army
together, so it was an epic one.
Me with the table. There you go.
Yeah, it was an epic game. It was because it started because he's a diehard Chaos guy. He has the Horde tattoo on one forearm. He's got Chaos stuff on him. This surly retired cavalry motherfucker who was playing it, who was playing in Iraq, was like actually like playing Warhammer in Iraq. That copy pasta meme, that wasn't him in there, but that was him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. The 2 guys sitting there with with codexes and rocks.
Yes. Yeah. And so he was doing that in Iraq, and all of a sudden, we opened up the store again. He's playing Chaos, I'm playing Loyalists. To then our last game be he's playing Loyalists, Dark Angels, but Loyalists, and I'm playing Chaos Marines. It was a beautiful little 180 for us.
But
yes,
wrapped itself up into a nice bow.
Yeah, so I did the Celestial Lions, which were a successor for Imperial Fist. So this is Army 2.
Okay, that's Army 2.
And then you did
Salamanders.
Then we did Salamanders, and we did Lamenters. Then we did Necrons. Then we did. I do ASL, so this is 6 at ASL. For those pay to watch me teach you ASL in Patreon. So we did. Then we did the Dark Angels, which was 6. Then I did my Guard, which was 7. Guard took forever because it was a giant kit bash. I did Sisters for 8. I did my Thousand Sons for 9. I have a couple of Knights. Which I hesitate.
9.5.
9.5. It's like I hesitate to count them as a separate thing because they're really just one big thing, and I paint them up so fast I don't really count it, kind of thing. Subtle flex.
Yeah.
So so we did that, and then I have the Tyranids going up. I repainted the Custodies a different color because I gave them to my fiance to play because she loved them.
Okay.
So we did that again. So that's technically paint job 11. Then I did your Necrons for 12.
Yep.
And ever since then, I haven't started a new army. I've just been building up the other ones and going in directions I want them to.
Just focusing on.
Yeah, like
that's cool.
Like I got this Leviathan Dreadnought here. Sign up for the Patreon to see it. I got this big old Leviathan Dreadnought, and he's going to be going.
You plugged the Patreon more times in this episode than I have. Period.
You're welcome.
That's not true.
You're welcome.
That's not true.
You're fucking welcome.
There's been like 30.
I earned my keep. No. So
that's right.
So yeah.
Patreon. Sign it up.
Eat my ass. What? No. Suck my toes. So, painting up Hive Guard and shit like that.
I've got it's funny. I've got those same Hive Guard.
Yeah.
I've got a set of them. They're base coated. Base coated.
These were a 1-day paint for me. I might highlight the shells, and like I said, camera is a little deceiving on that true color. But yeah. Send us
some pictures. We'll post them up.
You got it.
Yeah, my Knights I'm in a really weird place with because I'm gonna run them. So I'm gonna run a very traditional Knight house.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have the Imperial Knights. I'm gonna have the Armigers as well, and then I'm gonna actually have the Men at Arms, the ground guys. And when I say very traditional, I mean lore traditional. I don't mean tabletop traditional. So I have a Canis Rex. I have 2 Canis Rexes, and then I've got I bought a bunch of Escher models and a bunch of Gene Stealer bikes because my Men at Arms are going to be Escher chicks on the bikes.
I could dig it.
So that's just because of the way that I built House Crastus. I have to figure out how to do Escher looking dudes on bikes, which is going to be interesting. I might have to buy like Van Scar or one of the other ones that looks like I can mix it with.
Yeah.
Or I might just do guard and just do some helmet and head replacements. I don't know how I'll figure it out. I built House Crastus and Lore to be that very traditional kind of lore based knight household where there's a couple of knights, but there's a lot of just foot sloggers that are there too.
If we want to talk about, sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, makes sense.
If we want to talk about some internal lore, when I was building up my celestial lions, because they were such a fucking underdog, when I built my lions, my salamanders, and my lamenters all at once, I kind of had a game plan with them in my head for a story, and it was the lamenters and celestial lions historically have gotten their shit pushed in. Via bad luck or inquisition, sometimes both.
Necrons.
Sometimes both. They've been reduced to basically a single chapter's worth of, or like a single company's worth of Marines.
Company. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Yeah, I was like, yeah, chapter company worth.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been on that Alpha Legion kick, so it's legions, But so they, man. So it's like, well. Alpha Legion are really cool. I love Alpha Legion. For Space Marine factions, Dorn and Alfarius, they're everything. Those are my two favorite. Which is funny because they're literally opposing forces to each other, personality-wise.
I'm Khan and Abaddon, so...
Oh, spicy.
Maybe it just happens.
That'd be a fun duel to see. I'd pay tickets to watch that. It might be one of those Mike Tyson things where it's like not worth the entry, but it's like the idea of it,
So you're expecting Abaddon to bite off Khan's ear. Got it.
No, it's like they both move so fucking fast. It's like...
Yeah, that's true.
But it's...
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So we was like, well, Alpha Legion, they're bad and good at the same time. They ride that line. At best, we could say by modern standards for the way the Imperium sees things, they'd be at best renegade Astartes. At best. Because they still do fuck with the Imperium. Whether that's good or not, that's for your own decision to come to. But they are still at odds with almost everyone. And
they're tweaking that in the Horus Heresy right now
in a fun direction that I'm really because it's building up to all the blanks with Constantine Valdor. He got name dropped in a recent book too, so that's gonna be fun. So we have that working in the shadows. They go, and the idea is, well, salamanders help people. They're friendly. They can be kind of like a glue to kind of keep people together. What if we had people infiltrate Alpha Legion as the Badab War and stuff like that is going on, and we'll have them kind of keep an eye on these people because these are the ones that would be like most loved in like old school like Crusade era. These would be your bread and butter guys that you want, kind of thing. Noble, chivalrous, valorous, that kind of thing. Old school ideas in this kind of world of rampant hedonistic zealotry, we could say. And so all of a sudden that's happening. War of Armageddon, third one's happening. We hear about that. Black Templars are not very stealthy about their things. Okay, let's get these Celestial Lions and we'll get the Lamenters and they can work together. A gun line and an assault army already needing to recuperate. How can we make them work together? We can already come as a brotherhood. Better yet, we'll have one of them fake being the chapter master who needs personal guards. So we have Vulcan Heastan, who is Alfarius for all intents and purposes. So they're bringing them all together, and it's that lore. Okay, well, let's see. This is more through the Celestial Lions view. How did we work that? Well, they need relics and goods. I just got this Knight Castellan. The Knight Castellan is a Mechanicus guy who wants to bring, goods for his own people. So they can
Okay, so that's how you're doing your knights?
Oh, sorta. And then I have
like that.
And then I have Knight Farius. Yes, the generic
badass paint job.
Thank you. It's just this generic looking kind of gold knight with cool filigree. He's got the Teutonic cross on him because it's Warhammer, and then the other half is just Alpha Legion, and so we have Knight Farius, who's kind of also kind of keeping an eye for through the Salamanders kind of watch. So it's basically my big fan story. OC, do not touch. Celestial Lions are the best. Okay, bullshit like that.
And you've written some. We haven't read it yet. It's coming up, but you've written some Space Marine background stuff. So
yes,
we have a tale from the Hive coming up soon. You and Noir, I believe, are on deck for our stories.
Woohoo! For me, it is basically what I have posted so far. Don't know if I'm going to continue it because it's really more about heat of the moment passion than discipline and actually getting stuff done. It was basically
It's hard to write, man.
Yeah, it's easy for me to write. It's hard for me to write more.
Yeah. It's hard to enter. It's easy to write. It's hard to enter the discipline of writing.
Yeah. And so basically at best that would be considered a prologue, what I have written there. As you see the Celestial Lions and the Lamenters going through their own starting points. One group is being attacked by Nurgle demons. The other one is trying to do their resupplies. Some of the conflicts are internal. Some of them are external. And now, buddy cop movie, they have to work together or they both die. Yay! Kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. We'll have to do, obviously we love having you on the podcast. We'll have to do another episode here coming up soon where we do a little bit more lore. For those of you out there on a tease level, a lot of you guys have been talking about different lore as far as not space wolfy style things and planet development. I think everybody really liked our planet episode. So we're going to talk about some Crusade stuff coming up.
Ooh.
And then when we're done talking about our Crusade stuff, basically we're going to talk about how campaigns, how garage tabletop campaigns became Crusade. We're going to cover that. And then I'm going to do a full reveal. It'll probably be 2 episodes long of the Skaldmar worlds, which is my subsector, which is where most of my stuff is all wrapped up. Because I've got that same thing too. My Rat Mechanicus are from one area. That's where my Kroot are from. That's where my Space Marine chapter's from. That's where my Knights are from. That's where everything is from. The exception being my Tau and my Exodites are kind of on the periphery. And then my Tyranid and my Necron don't really match in. I don't really have lore for my Tyranids. My Tyranids are my meme army. That they who thirst. high fleet thirst trap.
Yes.
And I have a lot of fun with them, but I haven't. Yeah, like you said, they're Tyranids. There's not like a lot that you can do.
The only way you could do with Tyranids is have them interact with something to get something else.
Yeah.
Like that's what I did for my Tyranid lore. They needed a bunch of psychic children to bond with them to like get something where you can even push it in a direction besides Om Nom.
Yeah, that's what we should do. Next time we have you back, we'll have to talk some more lore heavy stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for helping us out with the podcast. Love having you on, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here. I love fucking around with y'all.
You got anything you want to plug? I obviously you do commission painting. I know that you've got all that stuff. You want to lay us down with those sweet verbal things that I will turn into links in the show notes.
Dulcet tones of my voice. You want to hear the sounds of my soothing voice? Yeah.
I do.
A Peninsula Miniature Painting at gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at Ickbard or Peninsula Miniature Painting. I do commissions. I do speed painting. The most important thing about me is I can get you to a battle ready or to parade ready. I can do battle ready or parade ready, and I can do it pretty fast. I painted Ryan's, I was about to say Tyranids, Necrons, painted about 3,000 points of them in about 10 days time. And that was with the constant feedback back and forth. I've been able to paint Knights under 3 hours. I can get something done for you right as the meta shifts, right as that new data slate comes every quarter, which it should be coming soon. Whenever people need to have something worked up, painted for a tournament, or, how LVO is coming up right at the end of January.
Yeah, that's right. LVO is right around the corner.
I'll be there too. make sure to give you guys hugs. It'll be great.
Not to mention, you can compete against Ickbard right now.
Bitch!
If you go to Patreon and then you join our painting contest.
Shit!
Wait, is this going to come out? And this episode will come out in just a couple of days from now. Come out on Wednesday, which I think is the 28th?
Wednesday
you have until the 7th of January.
Or 30th.
29th.
Yeah, or Wednesday's 29th, yeah.
29. Okay, so you'll have, if you join the Patreon right now as I am talking, you have exactly 9 days to compete in the painting contest. You got it. You got this. Nah, you guys should definitely join. I was going to mention, you had mentioned that you started doing some glazing techniques. That's one of the cool things that we've heard as feedback from people who are competing in the painting contest is everybody is like, oh, I want to try this new thing. I'm going to go learn this new thing for the painting contest.
There is an acrylic arms race going on of different techniques right now.
Oh man, there's some and you guys make it so hard on us, which is great. It was really, really hard to vote for anybody. And I'll tell you right now, if that had been our kit bash contest, I would have been like, I don't even, why are we talking?
Mine was a very fun kit bash. Unbeknownst to me, in a different server, there was a kit bash competition, and the dude on the server's like, "Did you put that in there? 'Cause I swear that's like." I go, "No, I didn't know you're doing it." He goes, "Shit." I'm like, "That's what I was feeling, bro. No, don't worry."
So we will have a kit bash contest coming up. We are going to do a terrain contest too. We've got this crazy ass idea. Patrons have heard it before, but we had this crazy ass idea of kind of doing a multi-stage competition. We might take an open call so we can fill 10 spots and then have you guys compete over like 4 or 5 different things for something. I don't know how it's going to work yet.
Painting decathlon.
The whole idea is doing like the Great British Bake Off, all of these shows that are really popular right now where people compete. You know, the top people in their field compete for something. It just seems fun. And I think people really enjoy it. Plus, it gives you an excuse to focus and push yourself painting wise, which I think is the end goal.
Yeah.
Ickbard's painting is awesome. I'm very happy with my Necrons. I've started to add to my Necrons, and you're willing to share. I don't know if you're willing to share with everybody. He was willing to share with me what he did.
Yeah, no, we can talk about the recipe. It's real easy.
Recipes.
It's like, well, that's the thing. I don't mind sharing the recipes. The recipe isn't what makes it special. It's about knowing how to cook it. And this is where the idiom falls apart, because I don't eat plastic or resin.
I do. It's very tasty.
I flub as much as you. What's my fucking excuse? Jesus Christ.
It's interesting. There's always that. I honestly do have that struggle of, do I send you the next 10 or do I work on the next 10? But because I want to work on them and I want to like have them in stages. It's interesting. And I probably at some point will send you more because I want it all consistent. So
I can respect it.
So one of those things. It's beautiful. I really love my synthwave Necrons. They're fucking awesome.
I appreciate those infinite black photos you took for them. Holy shit, that was like next level.
Marky makes everything look really good. He really does. His photography skills can really pull out all of his glamour.
Glamour photography,
the right word. Like, yeah, his photography skills can really point out how beautiful your models are. That's the words that I had in an order that needed to be said.
Because glamour photography involves women in bikinis. I was wondering where you're going.
But like you know, like oh no, you didn't break. But like I can show you guys here. Like this is one of the reanimators, and he looks dope as shit. But then you go and you see Marky's like infinite blacks, and you're like, oh, that's how awesome it looks.
Can we send you a couple of them to throw them on the Patreon?
Yeah. I think Send me the couple that you sent a couple of days ago, or that you put up a couple of days ago.
Yeah. It's almost like we don't get. It's almost like this is for the audience. This is a podcast. For Ryan and I, this is us catching up after a while.
It is. So check out Ickbard. Check him out. I'll put all of the spellings to everything and links down in the show notes.
Follow my SoundCloud. I'm dropping a new album.
You are?
No, fuck that.
Fuck yeah, dog.
I'm not the next 50 cent. I'm not even the next 50 cents. 50 cent.
You're not the 75 cent. Is that where we're at now? $1.20?
No, we degrade in value. I'm not even Mr. Nickel.
Nah, I'm Mr. 3 pennies you rubbing together.
Ching ching. That's the noise of me in your pocket. Coming to you live from the land of droughts and avocados.
We want to know how you guys got into the hobby. We want to know what your first armies were. We want to know your army lore. We want to know your ghost stories.
Tell us your first battle report.
Weird questions. Yeah.
First game.
Toss us. Yeah. Anything you got, you can reach out and get those stories to us at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or jimdarkgaming@gmail.com. We also have a growing Discord community that is pretty awesome. Ickbard is part of our awesome.
I never sleep.
I never sleep. I'm just there all the time. I feel like we have a very supportive community. We've had a couple of
emotional, very
not
pure
releases, emotional
announcements,
emotional announcements recently, and every
transformations in some folks' lives.
Yeah, and everybody in our Discord is very, very positive. We pride ourselves on the fact that like that's what we're here for. Plus, if you're interested in any of this lore stuff, those of you who have been following the podcast for a while, those of you who watch our Twitch releases and our YouTube releases will know that Noir is working on some of his lore. He constantly is asking questions of everybody in the community, like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, how does this work? And we're more than happy to answer those questions. We also have a community writing project called the Hive Project, and that fuels a lot of the stuff that goes behind all the characters and all the characterizations and kind of the one-liners and tidbits we drop about the Innsmouth Hive. If you guys enjoyed the show, please like, retweet, share, and review us on whatever your podcast platform is. We are on the big ones. We're on Apple Podcast. We are on Spotify. We are on Google Cast. We're on Stitcher. We are pretty much anywhere you can find us. Spotify and Anchor are our home, but Spotify and Anchor have allowed us to reach out and share with a lot of different podcast platforms, which is pretty awesome.
You can also find us on MySpace.
Can you? Shit, now that you said it, I'm going to have to figure it out. Damn it.
Top 5.
Oh, we're in your top 5?
Yeah. In the audio for like where you put in the HTML, it's me shouting "Good morning, Underhive."
Oh, perfect. I don't know. This is a total tangent, but a couple of years ago, I actually got back into my MySpace page and I was like, what the fuck? And I immediately left. I was like, I can't stay here. This is a cringy person. Not really cringy. I've changed a lot. I've grown up quite a bit. But yeah, those likes and those reviews and those shares definitely help us. We're always looking to appeal to the wider community. We think that we've got a lot of value. Obviously, you guys who listen to us, you guys who watch us think we got a lot of value. So we definitely want to keep growing a very healthy community. If you guys want to help us a little bit more directly, we do have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness.
You're used to someone talking and having to comment after each and every one of these.
Sometimes I'm not really good. Like I can be really good at rolling into talking head, and then I start thinking about the fact that I am a talking head, and I'm like, I'm bad at this. And then that part of my brain stops my functional brain from continuing.
You haven't reached full max headroom with your speech pattern, so you're fine.
I haven't. That's true. I haven't gotten to it. Have you noticed? I don't know if you engage with a lot of TikTok stuff, but I've noticed that like every single male on TikTok attempts to talk like Ryan Reynolds.
It's because Ryan Reynolds is this season's boy toy. And
he's pretty. I mean, he's pretty awesome. But
yeah,
I like him a lot as an actor. But I'm just like, guys, pick. I don't know. Just be yourself. Don't Ryan Reynolds your speech.
Low-key, Ryan Reynolds right now is the Bee Gees. There's just a little too much of it. It's a little too much Bee Gees. I'm in tune with the hip youth. That Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, you brought up the Bee Gees. I don't think you're in hip. You're hip replacement is where you are.
I know the youth. That Vanilla Ice. That Stop, Collaborate, and Listen.
Did you just bring up Vanilla Ice as being a youthful reference?
Twice.
Oh my God, man. All right. So if you guys want to support us a little bit more directly, we're gonna start the entire podcast over. Welcome to so we do have a we do have a Patreon. Please check it out. We've got 3 different tiers: a $3, a $6, and a $9. At all of the tiers, you get access to our painting contests, our Discord, and our video podcasts. You can also join our Discord just as a normal person, but you get a special tag and you get to pick the gang that you're in, the Underhive gang that you are in, which is pretty fun. It just gives us, it's a little bit more of that lore special spice. At the $6 level, we do ask some questions about the future of the podcast. The most recent one that we had asked was what these guys have wanted us to cover next when we're done with Astra Militarum, which the vote is pretty concise and in on Gene Stealer cults. So unless there's a big upset in the next couple of days, that's probably what I'm going to start working on. At the $9 level, you get access to some art assets that you can take to your favorite printing companies like 3D6 Gaming. 3D6 Games? 3D6 Games.
3D6 Wargaming?
3D6 Games. Yes, thank you. 3D6 Wargaming or Table War or something like that. And you can get custom template markers done with either the Under the Hive of Madness logo or the Jim Dark Gaming logo as your objective modifier. We are working on some other stuff as far as merchandise and stuff like that. We also have plans for another 2 tiers that will be above that, which will give some access to some different content. But all of this is a work in progress. All of this is just production time and balancing things. So I definitely encourage you to join and see what we're doing. I definitely encourage you guys to join the Discord and see what we're doing.
Discord.
If you want to catch us anywhere else, we do have a link tree. And as always, I put all of the spellings and all of the links into our show notes. I promise we do own a website and one day I will make it, but I think we're at like hashtag 2025 right now for that project. So just, chill out.
I feel like that line from Eminem's like, "Yo, Slim Shady, I'm writing, you still ain't responded. Where's my goddamn HTML?"
No shit, right?
With a Squarespace sponsor, anything's possible.
That's right. Squarespace, we're here.
I was just hoping.
I feel like we're getting to the point where every episode we beg. We're like, hey, give us sponsorship money.
We're like the Hello Neighbor Twitter account who keeps adding MatPat. It'd be sure nice if you made a game 3 about us. I was just hoping.
You know, I've 100% decided that Bear on our Discord needs to post the picture of Fat Titus every day until Henry Cavill comes on the podcast.
There you go.
Hey, Henry, I'm calling you out.
You don't know who I am, but I sure know who you are. That is.
Yeah, I know you have no reason to know who the fuck any of us are, but we know who you are.
I'm an overweight white male who lives in the U.S., and I demand you bow to my whims, sir. Don't you understand? I bought tickets to your movies. I'm the reason why you're successful. You should thank me.
my favorite part, and we totally won't spend the entire podcast talking about it if you do come on the podcast, is when you cock your forearms right before you get into a fist fight with Tom Cruise
or your mustache,
some dude in a bathroom. Oh yeah, the mustache fiasco.
Yeah,
this is how Henry Cavill's publicist hears about us and puts us on the do not contact list.
This is like when Weird Al was given like legal orders to not look Prince in the eye during the like Grammys.
Right.
He was sitting right next to him. And he was given like a legal notice, like, do not make eye contact with Prince.
You are not qualified to look at the Prince. I'm just saying. In response to the bullhorn fiasco, old mean one-eyed Krampus himself is up here threatening to beat us with something he's calling a branch. Not really sure what it is, but he says it comes off a tree. Not really sure what that is either.
I'll wait to chill once, bitch, I'll go again.
Apparently, he's going to beat both of us real fast right off this roof. He keeps shouting something about quota numbers and distracted workers. I'm not really sure what any of that stuff means because I run a pirate Voxcast. Well, before we start a workers' revolution, we should probably hoof it off this roof. That's been it from us here at 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio. Wishing all of you Chemrats and Hive Mice a very merry Sanguinala.
Seize the means of the red squid! And remember, ladies and gentlemen, please refrain from swimming after eating. The four-armed emperors consider that stuffing, and you'll be swiftly devoured. Toodles.
So the new way I'm supposed to end all this shit is by saying motherfucker. So are you ready? You want to do it in unison?
Okay, like on 3, 2, 1, go, or 3, 2, 1?
I don't know. Motherfucker! There we go. All right, man.